Welcome to the Adulting Podcast. I'm Zack Peter, a naturally platinum blonde podcaster, author, and sassy self-improvement addict spewing all those burning questions you're too afraid to ask.
And I'm Abigail Fraher, an unfiltered boss babe, daylighting as a lifestyle guru, stirring the pot on social issues. We're here to help you look cute,
live well,
work hard,
and stay woke.
Together,
let's conquer adulting. Welcome back to Adulting, everybody. I'm Zack Peter.
And I'm Abigail Fraher.
How you doing? How is the East Coast life treating you?
It's been so rainy and gray, but I kind of love it. I'm still trying not to go to bed at 7. It'll be 7:30 and I'm oh man, it's so dark. And I'm it's 7:30, get a life.
It's been a little gloomy today and yesterday here in LA.
I miss the sun. That's the only thing I miss right now is the constant sunshine. Definitely the seasonal hibernation mode setting in, and yeah. Fall's gorgeous.
Need some vitamin D.
I actually bought some. I thought of you. I picked up some vitamin D, some vitamin E, and a prebiotic to go with my probiotic. And I was God, I'm so grown right now. Zack would be so proud.
I love when Abigail listens to me. It just makes my heart so happy. Well, I'll probably be doing a lot more listening in this episode and asking lots of questions.
Right?
I'm hoping today's guest can help teach me why it's important to vote for more than just Team Brandy or Team Denise on The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. She's a host and correspondent on the Young Turks that's had more conversations with Trump supporters than probably Donald Trump himself. Please welcome Emma Vigeland.
Hey, how are you guys doing? Thanks so much for having me on.
We were just talking before. We're we have so many questions. Oh God, you're just the right person. But before we start digging into the politics of things, we like to do a little welcome, icebreaker situation. And it's called Espresso Yourself. So I'm going to start the sentences and I'm going to have you finish them. And so our readers or our listeners can get to know you a little bit better.
Perfect. Can't wait. Let's do it.
Wonderful. So the first one is I can't start my day without
coffee. Definitely am addicted to coffee, but I've been limiting myself to 2 cups a day these days, just because do
you find it harder during COVID, to not drink? So I feel I'm drinking, whether it's wine or coffee,
Oh, definitely on the wine, for sure. And I also discovered White Claw this summer. I'm late to the party, but yeah.
What's your favorite flavor? Yeah. Okay.
I'm all for the grapefruit. I buy only the grapefruit and that's it.
You're dedicated. None of the mixed variety packs. Okay.
Absolutely not. Yeah, no, I know what I want and I purchase it. So yeah, no, I have coffee, but I can't not have breakfast. I know there's a lot of people that can go throughout the day or work out before having breakfast. That's not me. I'm definitely somebody that needs something in my stomach in the morning.
You know what? Nutritionists would love you. Can't start your day without breakfast.
Not my nutritionist. I love intermittent fasting, but
do you?
I know it's not for everybody.
I do I'll do fasted workouts, but I have to eat. I pretty much eat within 2 hours of coming home from that. And leg day is definitely harder when I'm fasted, but it's fine.
Yeah, I'll accidentally fast. I'll forget to eat because I'm working or something. Yeah.
That's the trick to keep yourself busy so that you don't think about.
So you're not craving shit.
Yeah. Right. And just keep guzzling the coffee to where you're like me and you're shaking and your eyes twitching.
Right. Yeah, it's super. Nutritionists would definitely recommend that part too.
Because I think in quarantine you're not as active and moving as much because you're home a lot more and not going as many places, that the caffeine just kind of sits in your body without burning off.
Yeah, that's totally the phenomenon. And then you just feel your hand shaking.
Jittery, right. You're am I having alcohol withdrawals or did I have too much caffeine today? I don't know which one it is.
Yeah, things are going great.
Right. Perfect. So our next one is I feel sexiest when.
Oh man, I guess honestly talking politics, I've never been the kind of girl who's super into clothes or anything like that. I mean, I'm kind of a tomboy. I love sports. And so I've always associated intelligence with feeling good about myself. So kind of talking about the thing I'm most passionate about, which is politics, although sports are a close second. That's definitely when I feel at my best.
I like that. And I think all like women in their teens and like young women need to emphasize more on the intelligence level of being sexy because like looks fade. And like if you're smart, you always have it going, you know?
That's what.
Well, thank you. I hope so.
You have to
Yes.
grow up like an ugly
Yeah.
duckling or like really overweight so that it really forces you to like invest in more than just like your fit. Like hot
Just your
people
looks.
never go anywhere in life. Like unless you become
I was a
hot
super
after.
late bloomer. I was a super late bloomer who, you know, didn't hit puberty until very late. So
That's how I was. I mean, I'm
Right.
still waiting for my boobs to come in. Like, I don't know if that's ever going to happen,
No,
but
I had bigger boobs than Abigail in high school.
see, we're such well-rounded individuals. Like, we lucked out on that.
Definitely.
What is I feel, or when I work out, and can you work out during COVID? Have you been able to?
Yeah, I used to go to classes, which was a huge waste of money, but it was like the only way for me to fully motivate myself. If I tried doing my own workout, it wasn't as good. But now you can't go to classes, obviously. So I've taught myself to be way more self-sufficient with my working out. And it's actually been one of the better parts of COVID because now I can save money when this is all over and work out on my own.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I hate cardio though. Still, that remains. I still can't do cardio on my own. I'll lift all day, but just like having to run on the treadmill, it's the worst.
Oh, that's what I miss is the running on the treadmill.
Zach loves
I used
cardio.
to love doing that.
See, all right. Well, if you and I combine forces, we'd be the hottest person alive.
Right.
And then the last one is I feel most like a boss when I.
Oh man, I guess
Talk politics, right?
Same answer. Yeah. Well, I mean, when I do some really intense analysis about like a very specific political story, like over the weekend or not yesterday, I'm sorry. Everything's melding together. Last week, there was that whole story about Hunter Biden and the ethics behind that. Publishing of that article, and I did a really in-depth analysis about the implications of it, and I was pretty proud of that because I love diving into stories that are tougher and harder and more challenging. So things like that for sure.
I mean, I can't disagree with that. I think that's awesome. Now I'm gonna have to go read that as well.
Are you looking forward to when this airs? It'll be Thursday. So are you looking forward to tonight's debate, Emma?
Oh my God. Well, I would not say I'm looking forward to it. I think that's a bit of a strong statement. I'm interested to see. I mean, Trump's already been planting the seeds this week that he kind of is saying it's already rigged and unfair and going after the Welker, the moderator. So I'm interested to see how he adjusts his approach because it did not work last time. His poll numbers went down significantly. It's hard to draw an entirely conclusive correlation because the COVID response is so intertwined with how he's being viewed right now, but he did not do well. He came off, I think, belligerent, angry. He went after Joe Biden's son who passed away and also his son who struggles with addiction. And that's not going to win over the suburban moms that he needs. He's now polling 2-1, losing to Biden against women. So we'll see if he softens his approach, but I don't know if he's capable of it.
Is it possible to rely on the polls? I feel like we get such different polls all the time that like I think that's part of the reason we were shocked with the election back in 2016 is because everybody really believed that the vote was just going to go to Hillary, and then it kind of threw everybody when she didn't win and that glass ceiling didn't get broken.
Yeah, so I was sorry if you can hear my dog barking outside. I was not as shocked about Hillary Clinton losing the election. I thought it was way more of a toss-up because the polls started to narrow as the election got closer. And also the campaign she was running was poor, and the campaign Trump was running was really good. He was tapping into populist messaging. He was being anti-establishment. And at the time, those things were really appealing to people, which is why you saw Bernie Sanders, who would have been a constructive anti-establishment candidate, and Donald Trump is clearly a destructive wrecking ball kind of candidate who's undermined every institution that we have, in addition to continuing a lot of the corruption that he said he was going to end. So, but that messaging is potent because what people in Washington don't get is that everyone in the country hates people in Washington. And so they couldn't understand why the ultimate Washington insider would have lost to Donald Trump. And the polls nationally were correct in the sense that she did win by 3 million votes with the popular vote. But around the margins in the swing states, there was that tiny Trump coalition. But right now, Biden is expanding his lead as the election gets closer. Trump is running a terrible campaign, trying to obfuscate and change the conversation about COVID when that is the number one thing on people's minds, the economy, the coronavirus. And he's making it about law and order and trying to claim Biden's in bed with Antifa. No one believes that. So now it's Trump who's running the terrible campaign on top of the fact that the polls are so strong for Biden. I predict Biden will win. It's just a question of how much. And if Trump tries to challenge the results of the election via the Supreme Court by claiming there was some sort of fraud that there's no evidence for.
I think they both have really, the part that I think is a little like is a coin toss for me is I think they're both running such poor campaigns right now to the point where they're both failing to motivate or inspire people. It's very anti-Trump, anti-Biden sort of messaging that they're putting out there. And I just would have hoped that there would have been, especially from Biden, I wish we could have gotten a little more of that hope that we got from Obama's campaigns, you know, back when he was running for president. I think the country is in such a dire, hopeless place right now, especially with the chaos that we have the current president putting out there, that like I feel like we just need a little ounce of like a light at the end of the tunnel. Yeah,
I mean, look, no one's more bummed out about Biden being the nominee than me, right? I voted for Biden early, and I will encourage people to vote for Joe Biden. I guess I haven't said that publicly yet, but it's pretty clear. So, because I do believe in the politics of harm reduction, and another 4 years of Donald Trump could be immensely disastrous for this country, as even more than it has been. We have almost 220,000 Americans dead from coronavirus. We are in an economic depression. We have 61% plus of Americans who will have zero savings by the end of the year. We have 30 plus million Americans without health insurance, over 26 million Americans on unemployment. I could go on and on. These are the kind of numbers that could affect the United States economy for decades to come, because the Republicans are refusing to answer the bell and pass a second stimulus, and Pelosi's kind of playing politics with it. So we need some sort of reprieve from that. And I do believe voting against Trump is primary in terms of the objectives that we should have. But I totally agree with you, Zack, that it's disheartening that Biden hasn't come out with a more cohesive message, because when you look at data, when they talk to voters in swing states, what moves the needle most is when you talk about populist economic messaging, healthcare, education, and things like that, where the thing about Biden is that he's a centrist. So he doesn't really stand for much. He stands for compromise in the abstract. Now, that's better than what we have now of someone who's completely chaotic and psychopathic, but it's still not a great vision for the country. And I fear that the Democrats will take all the wrong lessons from this. If he wins, in the likely scenario that he does, running a candidate like Biden another time around is not going to work. And Democrats will lose once again.
Yeah, it was a good diffuser, but it's not a good long-term strategy.
Exactly.
And even when people are like, because I think the one thing that is the only positive thing about Biden being so center is that that's what is appealing to some of the Republicans who aren't like gung-ho Trump. And I think that that's made it a little bit easier for them to be like, all right, yeah, I'm gonna do this because he is so centered. But also, like, even when people are like, I'm a Republican and like I don't want to vote for Biden because, and I'm like, what do you think he's going to do in 4 years? It's going to be like that crazy. Like, you just have to undo what's been done the last four. It's just like a back and forth almost with these next 4 years.
It's not even an undoing. It's just like a leveling of the playing field. Like, I feel like the waves are so choppy that we just need a good 2 years to just kind of let the White House air out, let the stench and the spray tan go out the windows for a little bit. And then we can focus on some new productive policies. But like right now, we just need to like tame the waves.
And I think too, like,
oh, sorry.
No, you're good.
No, I do think that's really the sentiment, is this fatigue from Trump.
Yeah.
And people aren't really thinking, this will shock you, but sometimes Americans don't think that far into the future when they're making these decisions. And, and so really the focus for a lot of people right now is just end this. I don't know what's going on. This is the worst year of most people's lifetimes. I mean, we talk about 9/11 that year as being such a period of tumult, but it was more of just an acute point as opposed to this long lasting period of mass death and also mass economic harm. So plus on top of that, Trump is already so rude and breaking all the norms of the presidency. And already things seem so chaotic before this. So all of those things are such a toxic stew for people. They're just like, I just want this to be over. I'm crying, uncle, whoever the other guy is. A ham sandwich could be Trump at this point. So
yeah, I think the reason people voted for Trump is because they wanted somebody that wasn't Washington, but now we're realizing that it was a little too non-Washington to where it's like, it's just too much. There's too much. Like, at least Bush was able to unite the country after 9/11. He was able to like hold the role of a leader and tell everybody, because at the end of the day, all we want is for our dad to say it's going to be okay. Even though we have daddy issues and we may not like him, we just need dad to say it's going to be okay and rub us on the back. Trump can't do that. He continues to add gasoline to the fire and just create this further division that I think is the reason, everyone the red wants to blame the blue and the blue wants to blame the red for why our country is in such this divisive place. But I feel like it comes from the top and he's not bringing us together. He's continuing to instigate these issues.
I think too, like with the debate tonight, having a female moderator is going to be like so telling, because he is so fucking rude in general. And like having also middle America seeing a woman just being completely plowed over by the absolute audacity of him to just continue talking. I think it's going to do a lot as well to just continue the wave for Biden. Cause I can't imagine that that's going to go well.
Yeah, I mean, the women voter thing is a great point. Again, I don't know why people aren't talking more about that moment from the first debate where Trump just went after Biden's sons, and also this botched attempted smear job by Rudy Giuliani where they're leaking Hunter Biden's messages and Biden's just texting him saying, I love you. I'm so proud of you. Things like that. Wow, really got him. I know it's unfathomable for Giuliani and Trump to understand the concept of someone being a good father, but even for me, who's very much on the left and a populist, that humanized Biden for me. And there is something to be said, kind of to Zack's point as well, about somebody who is a human being in the role of president. Trump. Right. So Trump has made his living and ruled in this way where he wants to kind of appear larger than life. He has the spray tan. He has the hair. He's got this obsession with not appearing weak, which is why he did all those stunts after he contracted the coronavirus. It's just his style. And I think people are over that. I think people want to see some sort of compassion, and Biden, for all of his flaws, does project that compassion in a way that Hillary Clinton did not, by the way, which I think is key in this time.
Who was your front runner at the beginning of the election before we had the nominee? Who were you hoping for?
Well, I'm a Bernie Sanders supporter. I think that's been clear for a while. For people who follow my work. I also did like Elizabeth Warren for a while, but I think what I came down to for me was Bernie Sanders was that kind of populist who could bring in people who wanted a radical change to a system that's been inherently unfair to a great majority of Americans for quite a while. We have systemic corruption in the United States. Biden is a part of that. Hillary Clinton represented that in a way that I don't think the Democratic establishment understood. Right. Trump is also insanely corrupt, but he was a new face. So he tricked a lot of people and spoke with the rhetoric of anti-corruption. But Bernie, reflecting on it now, because Trump was such a disaster, he missed his opportunity in 2016, unfortunately, because the Democratic Party also really heavily influenced it against him. But that was the time when people wanted a big change. Now, people are so tired that they can't see 5 feet in front of them. They just want whatever's the most normal, and that's what Biden represents.
Abigail, who was your money on?
Honestly, Biden the whole time.
Really?
I didn't think that, as much as I agree with a lot of where Bernie stands, I think that it's difficult to have someone who's so extreme.
Yeah, equally polarizing.
I think it's easier. Do I think it's right? No, but I think it's easier for someone who is a little bit more even keeled to gain mass, support than somebody who's completely far left or far right. I mean, Trump, I don't know how the fuck he did it.
He did it because it was different and it was new, and that's how he was able to get away with it.
And it was a little, it was undercover, but it wasn't undercover at the same time. So I honestly, this whole time I've been thinking that it was going to be Biden, and listen, like I said earlier, I think it's easier to get people to swing to Biden than especially with Trump being obviously the opponent in the situation. I think it's much easier to be like, hey, especially too with a lot of the Republicans supporting him. I just think, I think it was the best situation to get out of what we were in. But like Emma said, there's no way there's going to be a second term there. And I think everyone's crazy if they think that would be something that he should do.
I really wanted Buttigieg. And I know that's a hot take because some people don't like Buttigieg or they thought he was too young or whatever. I just thought it was a breath of fresh air, but that was just me. I was able to see Biden kind of, actually, no, I would be lying because I remember my great grandmother told me at the very beginning, she was like, I'm gonna vote for Biden. And I looked at her, I was like, Grandma, he's not gonna be the nominee. Are you kidding me? He's done. And then now look where we're at.
Well, Biden had run for president twice previously and had lost. And I was pretty sure, I was like, I don't understand how people could unite behind somebody who stands for so little and who honestly does not speak effectively at this point in his life. But honestly, I think people consistently underestimate how beaten down the Democratic electorate has become over the past years. There is this belief, and older Democratic voters feel this too, that you can't really hope for something more. It's kind of this old Reagan style politics where you have to always concede to the Republicans because they have the stronger position. And Pelosi and Chuck Schumer, they really epitomize that kind of old school philosophy. And people are just terrified. They believe that, unlike the Republican electorate who will vote for whoever the guy they like most, as evidenced by Trump. And I think that can lead to victory because if you have a stronger candidate that appeals to the base, that can turn out a lot of people. Democrats are a lot more afraid and operate in more of a fear-based voting strategy. And that's why Biden won.
So vanilla.
I'm sorry?
I said he's just so vanilla. It's just... Right.
But I don't think that's a long-term solution because, again, healthcare, when you look at the polls, 2 out of every 3 Americans wants a government-run healthcare system. The Green New Deal is way more popular than the moderators make it seem. It's over 50%, I do believe, although it decreased in popularity as it kind of got delineated in the press. College for all is very popular. Canceling student debt is very popular. Legal marijuana, which Biden does not agree with, is 66+%. Issue by issue, the country is actually fairly progressive, but they don't have the kind of strong leftist candidate to advocate for those positions. That was Bernie, but he was seen as polarizing, and the media didn't do him any favors, and the Democratic Party despises him as well because it's just not the kind of politics they want to push forward. And so that they made him kind of alienating when I don't think his politics are alienating at all. But it's difficult for people to vote for those kinds of topics that they actually believe in when the candidate that represents those policy ideas was so demonized in Bernie. So they kind of went with a guy in Biden who doesn't really represent any of their policy priorities, but seems more electable.
Yeah.
Can you go over, I know we're coming down to our time, but some of the fallacies that you saw in the last debate and what maybe, I mean, the topics are very similar in the one tonight that they were with the first debate. What do you think is going to happen there? Do you think that now we're going to actually get to hear people talk more? Is it going to just be this back and forth? Because I personally got way more from the vice presidential debate. I pulled way more out of that than I did the presidential debate. I know that was a loaded question, so you can start.
No. I mean, let's be real. The person who drove it off the rails was Donald Trump, who was then infected with COVID. He made it very difficult for any real discussion to happen, and he did that by design. He wanted to make the debate kind of insane in that way, because that's what worked for him in 2016. I mean, he had these lines with Hillary Clinton where she said, she'd have this kind of plotting delivery where she would talk for a minute and she goes, I'm glad that nobody like you is in charge, will ever be in charge of our court system or something like that. And Trump just goes, because you'd be in jail. And then like the whole crowd goes, whoa, and what? Like he had these one-liners and he had these instincts back then that he no longer has. And he feels the desperation. So he was like, I have to control the narrative. I have to knock Biden off. And it backfired tremendously, because as we touched on before, I used his word tremendous. As we touched on before, this is a time where people are feeling genuinely terrified, and they don't want somebody who's going to be a wrecking ball. They want somebody who's going to appear like a leader. And Biden came off way more like that, even though there really wasn't much policy discussion outside of coronavirus that was scrutable. Like, could Biden talk about something Biden stands for example, a policy position he never talks about? He ostensibly says that he wants to make college free for families that I think have make less than 125,000.
Oh, 125. Okay.
I believe it's something like that, right?
Yeah.
That's a great policy. And it's also not that expensive. It's less than Trump's military budget increase that he proposed, I believe, 2 years ago. So it could be done easily. That's something he could talk about. He's not that kind of wonky guy, though. You talked about Buttigieg. Buttigieg would probably throw out some of those statistics or something like that, or Elizabeth Warren. That's kind of their area. Biden doesn't delineate the policies that he stands for very well. But I hope he has more of an opportunity to do that, because we can't just respond to COVID and specific things right now. Biden has to make it clear what he wants to do and what his vision for the country is beyond removing Trump.
Why do you think people need to, because I feel like we hear this statement all the time, especially with the younger people, that like, oh, what's the point of voting? My vote doesn't matter. Why is it important for us to actually exercise that vote, especially because we know the Electoral College is really the decision maker in who ultimately wins the election, which we saw back in 2016, where Hillary did get the popular vote. More people wanted her to win, but ultimately Trump won because of this Electoral College system that we have set up.
Yeah. So look, I do understand if you're a young person and you feel like you have two bad choices, because you do have two bad choices. But one,
we need to be honest. Like, we need to be okay just like being honest about that and then making the best decision moving forward.
Exactly. I mean, my lovely parents who I adore, but like they keep telling me not to say anything negative about Biden. I'm like, well, people come to me to be honest, but I'm also telling them that they should probably vote for Biden. Definitely, I think. I'm not going to tell you what to do, but the point is that the harm reduction of ensuring that Trump does not have another 4 years, that's key. And if you aren't in a marginalized group, if you aren't somebody who experiences mass discrimination, if you aren't somebody who's an undocumented immigrant, if you aren't somebody who has a pre-existing condition, maybe that doesn't mean as much to you, but those things do matter. And I get it. The Democratic Party is not making their case, and they're making it as hard as possible for you to make this decision. We saw this in 2016, but it's super important that you at least try to move forward. We are way more likely to get stable policies and be able to move Biden in at least a marginally better direction than we would be able to do with Trump. And Trump has talked about undermining our democratic process. That's not something we can mess around with. So, plus when you're talking about the Electoral College, Nate Silver, 538, they talked about Biden has to win the popular vote by like 4 to 5 points plus for the margin to be comfortable with the Electoral College. So your vote really does matter. It has to be some sort of a landslide so Trump can't undermine it in the courts. That would be very key too.
And this is the easiest time in your fucking lifetime that you will ever get to vote. You can vote from your damn couch while you're looking up the issues. Like, come on. Like, really, it's really not that hard. If you can tweet, then you can vote.
For sure. And we all know that people love to tweet, myself included. But I already got my ballot in. It was not hard. I tracked it online, made sure that it got through, and it did. So you can do it safely. And a lot of the postal office shenanigans have been a little bit reversed. So hopefully your ballot gets through.
And we're coming to a close too on the availability to vote. So do you have the specific deadlines? I should have got those together.
I know most of them have, some of them ended the 20th. I know California's, ours ended on, I believe, the 19th, and the 20th was the last time you were able to register to vote. But what are you asking when we're allowed to send them in?
Yeah, just like the last time for absentee ballots to be sent, and then obviously like when your vote needs to be sent in by.
I believe that they can be accepted a week up into the election, but I'm going to look it up.
I know, I already sent mine in, so I'm like,
I need to send mine in still. I need to get mine out.
Right. Hold on. I'm actually on my computer looking it up right now.
I just want to make an informed vote. Like, I remember even back in 2016, I was with my grandparents, and they're more conservative than I think I am, but I remember we went through all of the different propositions, and we sat at the kitchen counter, and we went through all of the issues, and I didn't tell them whether or not yes or no was red or blue. I was just like, this is what the policy is about. Do you agree with it or you disagree with it? And they're like, I agree with that or I disagree with that, but they weren't voting, which I think so many people like to do, is just vote straight blue down the line or straight red down the line. But I think you need to actually investigate what somebody, because like, look, that's like saying that there's no flaw within your party, or that they're not going to put a policy that maybe doesn't align with what you believe is in the best interest of your country. And like, you should be able to make your own decision and make an informed, empowered decision.
So yes, it very much varies by state. But for example, I'm in New York. You have to have it received or postmarked, 7 days before Election Day.
Okay.
New Jersey received 7 days before Election Day by mail. North Dakota, I'm looking, there's very, very different for state by state, but just go on vote.org and you'll be able to find all that information.
Yeah, I need to get mine in this week. I'm going to get on it. Abigail's going to have to hold me accountable.
We will.
All right. Thank you guys for listening to Adulting. Emma, where can people go and follow you and keep up with all of your stellar content?
Sure. You can follow me at Emma Vigeland on Twitter. That's my favorite place to express myself because I don't really have to take a cute little photo on Instagram. I'm not good at that. You can follow me, though, on Instagram where I never post. And you can also follow my work on the Young Turks and my little channel on TYT Network called Rebel HQ.
I love it. You guys can follow me at Just Plain Zack, and don't forget to follow at The Adulting Podcast to stay up to date with the latest show news. Go to theadultingpodcast.com, sign up for our newsletter. You can watch and listen to full episodes on the website, and there you can have links to iTunes, Spotify, Roku, everywhere the show's available. You can just head to the website and click that little button. Abigail, where can they follow you?
Well, don't forget, they can also pick up a voting shirt from the website as well.
Yes, they can. Yes. Get in, loser. We're going voting. Shirts available at theadultingpodcast.com.
And you guys can find me on all social. I reactivated my Twitter after our last episode at Abigail_AF.
All right, guys. We will talk to you next week. And until next time, we'll be
#adulting.
Boom. We are out.